Hello and welcome to my video. I'll show you how to create a little cute little baby Groot charm in polymer clay, and also I'll be showing you all my mistakes in this whole entire video and possibly talking about my mistakes. You need basically a rolling bin, basically a ball tool with probably a smoother at the end if you need one. You can also use your fingers. I have an X-Acto knife as well. Paintbrush that I'm going to be using, that I'll be using with chalk pastels. I'll also be using chalk pastels as well, like some different colors. The clay that you'll be using will be some brown clay. You'll also be using some clay that you want to use for your pot. I'm using silver. Some black clay that I'll be using that for the eyes. Some clay that you want to use for the soil, which is just basically a darker brown. The clays I'll be showing you now is just basically extra. They're essentially just little items I'll be putting on in the planter along with the baby Groot. And what else you'll be needing is basically some green clay as well for the grass. And basically here is just a little eye pin that I'll be using, or a head pin. You could either use both. I'll be showing you two methods of how to use both of them. I'll show you two methods of how to make the body for the Groot. And basically you could either use a head pin for the structural support, or you can use like a little rod in the middle when you use an eye pin. What I'm just doing now is just cleaning up my stuff. I'm usually really bad at cleaning up my stuff when I should be, but somehow I end up making my charms nice and clean afterwards, even though I am a terribly messy person as well. But I recommend you to try and always keep your surfaces clean. That way you don't have any contamination with all of your items for your clay. What I'm doing now is basically just mixing up that clay, that silver clay for the pot, and making it all nice and smooth and so it can be conditioned. What I do next is basically pinch it off, and then I just roll it up a little bit to make it into a little ball. And then I roll it out to be a little cylinder, and then I just pat it on the mat that I have right here. And then I use the ball tool to just make a little hole in the indent, make it all circular inside. And then what I do is also I use like a back of an X-Acto knife, or I can also use a big ball tool to basically make the cavity a bit circular and more like the same shape, I guess you can say. And I just push the clay up against the ball, and then I roll it against the mat, so the hole is secure. Not secure, but like it's consistent. And then basically just make it look nicer, yada yada yada. And what I do have a little blade right here that I basically just cut out the excess clay that I don't need off, so I can have a nice clean edge for the pot. I pull it off as much as I can, not ruining it, but if you do ruin it, just try and make it all like uniform again inside, touch it up a little bit. And also cut off some excess clay to basically have that nice straight edge as well, if you want to have a nice straight edge. Here I am just like basically make it all look nice and everything like that again. There's also another method where you could basically put a cylinder already in that clay. Like you already have like a cylindrical clay, and then you just wrap some silver clay right on top of it, and that will basically make a makeshift pot. Just to make sure that basically the bottom of the pot will be like the same color as the outside of the pot as well. You can also do that if you want to be quick and dirty. What I'm now making is basically the outside rim of the planter. Just rolling it out into like a nice smooth little small snake. Make sure the snake has the same consistency or thickness. And then I basically just roll it out. You could use any type of pin that you want to use to make it all smooth and flat. I am doing terrible at this one. I think I'm just really anxious with making this thing for you guys. Cut off the excess clay and cut off as much as you want. If you see if it's a little bit rough around the edges, you can try and cut it up. Make it all nice and straight on all the sides. Or you could just do what I just did and make a huge entire big mistake, so just redo it again. Oopsie! Basically just rolling it out again, making a snake. As you can see, I'm just using the side of my X-Acto knife to make it roll out too. and then basically just put it against the outside of the pot, make it in like basically an exterior rim. You'll notice here that I basically underestimated how much I needed. So basically we're just gonna try and make another little part of another part of the section right there. It's not that hard. I have some excess clay right there straight already. Just add it there, and then what you do afterwards is that you basically smooth it against each other to make it all nice and equal. So cut up the excess of the clay, get rid of the excess clay that you don't need. Just make it all nice and smooth. Even if the interior looks messy, it's perfectly fine. You're gonna fill it up with clay anyway, so no one will really see it. Just try and make the whole entire thing smooth. If you need to, just if some of it is smudging up, you can try and like make it flat again by using the butt or the blunt of the knife. You hear background noise. That's my dog being silly. He's licking my foot currently, and he's not stopping. And if I close my door, he'll just continually whine. There you go. So what you could do next is you can just stub it up with a head pin, or you can just use it, or just leave it as it is and bake it as it is as well. So here you go. This is what it looks like with the head pin inside. Later on, that'll be useful for like basically structural support, or like I said, you don't really need to put it like that. Just bake it as it is. So here's like one without a head pin in it. I'm going to use the eye pin method first. So basically what you need to do is just fill that up with some soil, the clay that you're going to be using for the soil. What you'll see me using a little bit later is some basic translucent liquid clay. That is just mainly for me to like have everything be stuck in one place. It's kind of like glue, I guess you can say, clay glue. But you don't really need it if you don't want to use it, or if you don't even have it, it's perfectly fine. I'm just using it because I just want to use it. That's basically my soil. What I'm doing now is basically just messing it up a little bit, adding some texture to make it look more like soil. What you could just do is basically just use a knife and just like put some slices in it to texture it, go in circles. But I'm going to speed it up a little bit so you can see what it looks like. Kind of like that. I'm just using a circular motion with the knife. You can also use a needle tool as well for this method as well. Or a pen, or any type of thing that's pointy at the end. So here it is. Then what I'm going to do next is going to take a little medium ball tool and just poke it in the middle and drop everything. Poke it in the middle like so, and basically make a hole basically for the Groot body of the charm. So here's like a little example. That's where the metal thing is going to go in, and I'm going to use the rest of that metal tool for the rest of the body. So what you do next is I basically take that brown clay that's a little bit lighter than the soil clay, the clay that you're using for your soil. Make sure you just condition up that brown clay, make it all nice and smooth and easy for you to mount, basically easy for you to move around essentially. Pinch off a little bit of it, and what you're going to do is make them into very long, thin snakes. It's still a little bit thick, but what you could see here is that you could see that I mixed this clay up. So it has like different variations of this clay. I did not mix it up that well, but I decided to like, instead of like continuously mixing it up, I liked that texture that I had there. It looks like wood, so I just left it in. You could do the same thing too if you mixed up your clay. If you mixed up your brown, like different colored browns. I think I mixed mine with like some metallic clay colored basically. Here I folded this clay up against itself to basically like spin it around thing. I didn't really know how to make this at first because I saw this method kind of on YouTube. So basically what I'm doing is just basically trying to roll it against each other in opposite directions. I did not like it, as you will see soon. I'm super trying to make it look like nice looking, but I'm like, this is too clunky. Don't like it. Let me just take it off. So I'm like, okay, I think I need to make these into thinner rods, so like basically thinner snakes. I just did that. Make them even 10 times thinner. Folded folded it onto each other like so. And I'm like, and then I was thinking, I think I may need more clay. So I took that extra part of the snake and then I rolled it up as well, making it the same like thickness as those ones, like put it up against each other. And then what I just did is I basically twisted it up like a Tootsie Roll Pop or whatever. Twisted it up onto each other and then stick that pin in there. Although I unraveled a bit so it's easier for me to put it in. You can also just twist it up and then roll it against the rod yourself as well. I'll show you that method soon. Basically, I'm using this method mainly because it's just a little easier, and at least in my opinion, it's a little easier. What I'm doing now is basically just making little arms. Pinch off the rest of that excess clay. I'm going to use that for the rest of the arm. I'm basically making that arm like look a little cute, and I'm going to press that arm right there for the second arm for the Groot charm. There you go. You can pose it as like whatever you want it to be. This is what it looks like so far. I'm gonna cut out the excess at the bottom, so I'm able to put the metal part mainly in the pot, like so, like that. There you go. That is body 1. Here is version 2. What I'm doing is basically just moving, putting the soil clay, or the clay, this clay basically around the metal tool, around the head pin metal, around that metal needle, essentially, I guess you can say, to basically make it secure that when I do start to put the body in, I'm able to put it in easier. Also, I'm using like the small little ball tool to just make a little bit more of space, just so I can put some clay in there for the future, basically, for the body. Smoothing out a little. You don't have to if you don't want to, because you can texture it up later so it doesn't look so uneven. I'm smoothing up anyways. And then what you do next is I basically just condition some of that brown clay, like what I'm doing right now, hopefully quickly, or sped up as some would see. And I'm basically pinching this off and then making some little snakes. Well, this is going to be a very, very long snake. This is like off of my screen long. It's a little hilarious how long it was. Okay, so what I did here is I basically folded it onto itself halfways and then cut it off and then made a little bit more. And so that way I have 3 strands. And then what I did here is that I basically took some Sculpey, you don't have to do that. Basically have this there, and then I basically twisted onto the little rod there. Kind of like that. Though I overshot it, how much clay, not overshot how much clay I needed, but more so I made it a little bit, a little bit too much. Made the body a little bit too long. But basically what you just need to do is just make the head and put that in between and basically stab it through with the metal fastening. With the end of the head pin. What I'm doing now is basically just texturing up the soil. I actually like the eye pin method a bit more since I feel like the charm just ended up looking a little bit cuter in the end, but that's just my opinion. I feel like I probably just need to practice with the head pin method a bit more, but though I do use head pins a lot in my crafts though. So next up would be the head. So you basically take some of the clay that you used for the body already, mix it all up, a small little ball like that. It's basically you make it into a really round-ish triangle. What I'm doing now is basically making spots for where the mouth will be and also where the eyes will be. As you can see, what I did is that I basically used the most pointiest section, or the one that is the most narrow as the face, and what I'm also doing right now is making the mouth a bit more like a smile right now with the little toothpick I'm using. You could either use a toothpick or a ball tool. I'm just using a toothpick just because I don't know why. I don't know why. I stopped trying to figure, basically using the ball tool just to make it smooth it out a bit more. And then what I'm doing now is just adding some texture. Well, what I'm doing now is actually just cutting off the excess roundy bits to make it a bit flatter on the sides of the Groot. Then I'm just smoothing off the edges to make it a bit smooth, to make it a bit rounder. And now I'm adding a little bit texture on the top of the head to make it look like the grooves. And I'm using the blunt side of the X-Acto knife to make the depth even deeper. You can do it all around the head if you want to. I'm just doing it just the front mainly though. And then what I'm doing is just making a little hole at the bottom of the head. That way I know where I'm going to stab the head onto the charm. Add a little bit of glue to it. Just for added security. And I stick it onto the head. As you can see here, I accidentally pulled off the arm by accident, thinking it wasn't going to break off when I picked it up. It's still clay, it's not baked yet, but that just means I didn't condition the clay properly. It wasn't as soft as it should have been. So what I could have There you go, that's what I have so far. Next up will be the eyes and the blush. I actually have some white clay, pink clay I'm gonna be using to make the little blush marks. You just make it into a very, very small little thin snake, and then you basically just rub it onto each other. It'd probably be easier if I wasn't wearing gloves, because it'll be able to stick to my hands a bit better compared to sticking onto gloves. I don't know why I'm wearing gloves. Recently I've been wearing gloves just because I was trying to get rid of basically my marks on my finger, from my fingerprints on my charms, which helps a little bit. But my fingers, as you can see, I have one thumb exposed, and my one thumb would basically help me smooth out the bits a bit more, because sometimes fingers is a really great smoothing tool. If you don't have any tools to smoothing down clay or smooth down edges, your fingers can do that perfectly really well. But I'm just trying out a new method right now. Let's see how long I have the gloves for. See, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically just make some little eyes. I'm gonna try and make it that small. It's a little small, it's pretty small. Basically get a toothpick and try and poke it in the eye. I realized it was too small, so I tried again, combine it with that piece right there. And lost it somewhere. There it is. And then I pick it up again. Pick it up and put it into the eye after I lost it again. And then I use a little ball tool to just put it in. Or you could also use your finger as well to push it into as well. And repeat the process. What I should have done is that I should have cut those pieces out at the same time. That way I know how big both of the eyes are. That way I don't have inconsistent eye sizes. But I am just not used to it yet. I'm trying this new method of making eyes, so. I found it pretty cute. What I usually do, I paint the eyes on. I wanted to try and stop painting the eyes on because it's just a big hassle for me for some reason. I'm basically just putting that clay right away. Oh, I know what I was doing. I was making a face. I was trying to make a smile, and I was like, will this look nice? Let me pick it up and then see if this looks nice. Try and make it into a little face or whatever. Try to put it up against. Try and make it into a little face or whatever. Try to put it up against the little Groot charm. And then I was like, nah, I was like, nah, how about no? So I just left it the way it was. I found it really cute just without a little anything in the mouth. So what I'm doing right now is using a little head pen and putting it in. Also making a little indent so I know where I want to put it. As you can see, what I have is a screw top head pin. I like those a bit more because it adds a little bit more security to the head pin not coming off. So I'm just adding a little bit of clay glue at the bottom. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, because if you did, you should use it if the clay is already baked. Now what I'm doing next is basically just making little mushrooms. I'm gonna make little red mushrooms, like red topped mushrooms, and like a little succulent, and I'm gonna use a little bit of chalk pastel for adding more detail as well. I guess what I should go into is probably just me talking about like mistakes. As you can see, I made a lot of mistakes, especially since I usually don't sketch out my vision of what I plan to make for charms. My charm ideas are just more so like, I have this great vision in my head. This will be super cute. I should try and make it. And my first try in making a Groot charm, like I had this envision something similar to this, but what messed me up was basically the body, of how to make the body. I had no clue how I wanted to make the body at all, and when I tried to do it like in a different way, I'm like, this looks disgusting, so I gave up on it. And then I tried it again, and what I did is like I wanted to record my progress to see if I fail or not fail at all. And it turns out that it's like, wow, like this new method worked really well. I've been experimenting a lot with clay right now, so it's really awesome to see like my mistakes and how I can learn from them. Like for example, this one right here, I was trying to figure out how to make the mouth, not the mouth, but like basically the center bud for the succulent plant. And I'm like, let me flatten like 4 little leaves together and put them all together. And then as you can see here, I'm like, I didn't make that look, I made that a little bit too big, whatever. Let me try and like shove it all in there. Had it go in alternating patterns like so. And like, I was like, okay, this looks really nice so far. Try to put the bud in. Try to put the bud in. Don't like how the bud looks. Let me take it out again. And then what I'm doing is like making 2 little leaves, putting them together, and then placing them in the center like that. Still kind of don't like how the succulent looks in the end because it looks a bit too big on top. But oh well. Also like, but I like what you could also do is like how you can maybe make your mistake into a happy mistake, I guess you can say. For example, for the succulent part, what I end up doing is basically just kind of like pushing them a bit more together, making it a bit more like all the same size. Then again, I also like irregular sizes, even though sometimes it bothers me as much as like, oh, this really bothers me. But this looks really nice in the end, like wow, okay. Also like sometimes like one time I had like, sometimes you will see some like I have too many fingerprints on my succulent, but then when I brush on like for example the chalk pastel, I'm like, wow, this chalk pastel is like giving a lot of variation in detail just because I have my fingerprint on the succulent plant basically. It's like, wow, this looks really pretty. I didn't expect it to look this nice, even though I made a terrible mistake basically. I'm adding some brown to add a little bit of detail to the Groot charm as well. You don't have to if you don't want to. I did it anyways. Like it also makes me try, like even if I keep on making mistakes, it makes me think of like different things I could try and mix stuff with to like make it look nicer or something like that. Or even if I mess up on the charm, I end up creating something different than I expected to make in the end. Like, for example, like this Groot charm will look definitely different compared to the other method that I use for the Groot charm, which just ends up becoming much taller and much, like, as you can say, fatter, I guess, in a way. Well, this one looks much smaller. It makes me try and think of like, okay, how else can I make these charms now into different sizes or whatever. So okay, after I'm gonna stop rambling now. So I'm just adding some more like final details for the grass. Basically what I'm doing is basically scraping it up with my needle tool like so, and place it into the oven for the recommended time that you need to place it into the oven for your polymer clay. I'm gonna bake mine for 30 more minutes. The pot, well, I'm gonna bake the pot again, doesn't make much of a difference since it's already baked. It's able to be baked. Polymer clay is able to be baked multiple times over. I tested this fact too many times recently. So yeah. There we go. Now for baking time and then glazing time. So what I'm going to be using is some basically UV resin, but you could also use polyurethane resin. Yeah, polyurethane resin, or not resin, sorry, gloss, or a varnish, kind of like what they use for like wood varnishing, or you could also use like any type of like glazing stuff like Mod Podge or like triple thick glaze, or even the Sculpey glaze stuff that we have nowadays. I wanted to try and use basically UV resin because I got it recently, and I wanted to try it out to see if it works on it or not. Basically, like you just brush the goods onto the plant. I'm going to be using a two part method for this part. You can see that I'm glazing actually the second version of the Groot charm. Kind of like this. You can see like this is what it looks like so far with all the glaze. Two-part method is basically just brushing up the top part first, and then I'll be glazing the bottom at the bottom, like glazing the pot later on. But with UV resin, it does require you to have UV light or sunlight in general in the area. So what you just need to do now is basically just use a little UV flashlight like that. Have it like I needed to have mine on for a little bit longer than expected, so I let it just bake in the sun for a bit before I did the bottom part.
Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. If you want to see more, just subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. See ya!